when we're learning tarot, how can we use the images on the tarot cards from different decks to help us really tap into and understand the wider meaning of the Magician card? That's what we're going to be focusing on today, so let's dive in. Now, here are some of the cards that I'm going to be talking about today, but do drop a comment below before we get started to share your favourite depictions of the Magician card. Now, there's a lot of rich symbology on the Magician card, and I'm going to just focus on 5 aspects of this card, starting with the fact that this is the first card, card number 1 of the Major Arcana, and 1 is a prime number which represents this idea of it being a primal energy, and the idea of the individual, perhaps oneness with the universe or divine spirit or God, or however you like to describe something that is higher than yourself. I also think it probably is an idea that this primal energy is a raw energy that we're all born with, perhaps a restless energy, and what the Magician does is teaches us how we can go about channeling that energy to pursue our life's desires. And when we learn how to do that, we become a conduit. And so the Magician here is stood in a very strong pose. He's pointing up to the heavens and pointing down to the ground with the double-ended wand in his hand here. And this is a visual symbol of the hermetic concept of as above, so below. So the Magician is a conduit between heaven and earth, and this idea that what is happening up in the skies is reflected down here on earth. And so tapping into subtle energies to help us to connect to our soul purpose, our spiritual side, if you like, which we can utilize here on earth. And when we do that, when we tap into our soul purpose, we transcend to our higher self, which is ultimately what the Magician teaches us. So we are raising our spiritual awareness, and this will give us the freedom to reflect and identify really what our true desires are. Once we've done that, we can then start identifying the tools and the skills that we have at our disposal and how we can use them to manifest our dreams and our goals. And so we saw with the Fool in his little bag, which is carrying the 4 symbols of the Minor Arcana, so the Cups, the Pentacles, the Swords and the Wands. And these are the items or ideas or energies that we can use with intention and creative action. And once we start setting intentions, this is when we start experiencing success in terms of reaching our goals. This is very much in keeping with the ideas that are expressed in law of attraction as well, which all comes under the umbrella of manifesting. So at its core, the Magician is a manifester, but it does require action, and it's not a passive activity. You have to actively know what it is you're trying to create and how you're going to go about creating it. How do we go about remembering primal energy as a part of the Magician card? So this first one comes from the Hush Tarot. This is a very unusual Magician card, and when I first started using this deck, I struggled to connect this card to the meanings of the Magician. That was until I thought of it in terms of primal energy. So we have our Magician here. We have this creature. I'm not entirely sure if it's a wolf or a kind of a dragon or some other kind of mythical creature, but I think this illustrates the idea of primal energy really, really well, because we have lots of flames from the candle, so this idea of kind of a raw creative spark. It is a little bit gruesome, this card, because it would appear that the magician has possibly beheaded this poor creature, but this visually demonstrates how the magician has taken control of this raw and restless energy that I spoke about. The next card comes from MJ Cullinane's Crow Tarot. This is to illustrate the concept of as above, so below. And I selected this card really because we have quite a distinct below, so the rocky terrain of the mountains, and we have this very dramatic cloud-filled sky with possibly sun coming through. And whilst this visually doesn't depict an identical mirroring, I think the fact that we can clearly see the sky above and the ground below, for me, is a helpful visual reminder for this aspect of the card. The other thing we said about this is that the magician is a conduit between these two realms, and as I said, I thought it could be sunshine, but it could also be like a lightning bolt. And we have the crow here fully surrendering, if you like, to this middle space between the above and below. And sort of, it's almost like this crow is channeling the energy between the two realms. And this pose also suggests that this crow is connecting to something higher than itself, as I said, in this pose of surrender. And when you start looking into manifesting, I'm looking at Moonology manifesting at the moment. A big part of manifesting is surrendering these goals and these wishes, if you like, in order to make them become a reality. Because if we cling on to them, it's sort of forcing it rather than just trusting that all will be well and that these things will come your way. To illustrate the transcendent aspect of the Magician card, I've chosen this card from First Aid for Broken Hearts Tarot by Nonara. Again, a very unusual magician card, but I have selected this because look at what's happening in this card. Whereas our RWS Magician is still rooted, standing on the ground, even though he is connecting to his higher self with his pose and his double-ended wand, this magician has fully left the ground, flying high above the earth, which I think is a beautiful representation of someone who may be connecting with oneself on a higher level. You've also got a big amount of pink here. If you think pink is associated with love, and sometimes the heart chakra, although green is also connected to the heart chakra, which we can pick up down at the bottom here. And when we have connected to ourselves through tapping into that universal energy of love, that is also another way of transcending, because when we have love, it's far easier to feel safe and to override any feelings of fear. And obviously when you're trying to manifest, if you're coming from a place of fear, it is much harder to do what the magician has set out to do, which is to manifest his life and his dreams and his goals. So the manifestation element of the Magician card, I am going to be using the card from the Transient Lights Tarot by Ari Weisner, because it's a very simple but clear reminder that we have an array of resources or talents or skills that we can utilize when done in a thoughtful way to reach certain goals or ambitions. Now, unlike the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, where the magician's tools laid out on his table represent the traditional suits of cups, pentacles, swords and wands, in this deck, Ari Weisner has changed these to represent the 4 elements, which is your heart, soul, mind and body, which invites us to discover and wear them and gives us permission to create our own magic and to manifest our own power. So that's a really powerful message. What happens when we align our heart, mind, body and soul? What wonderful things can we achieve and create? And when we do this, we need to do it with intention. This is not a passive activity by all means, which takes us to point number 5, intention. This card comes from another MJ colour name deck, this time the Enchanted Forhaxa Tarot. Looking at this image here, we have our magician, we have a scene, a snowy scene, and yet this magician has managed to harness their inner energy to project this inner energy on one sole object, and because of this hard work, effort and intention in channeling this energy to this one plant, this magician has managed, against all odds, to grow this large and beautiful flower despite the challenges of maybe the snowy weather behind them. And so this idea of his intention is, if you believe in something, if you're willing to take the steps, if you're willing to put the work in and channel that energy in one direction, you will achieve success. You are invited to embrace this idea of sort of creative action, because when we're intention setting, we do need to think creatively about how we're going to do this as well. And because of this magician's hard work, we can see here that the rest of the plants are way behind in terms of their growth. For our reversed meaning, I have taken the Magician card from the Phantomwise Tarot by Erin Morgenstern, because the reversed meaning is all about kind of manipulation, deception, possibly you being the one instigating these traits, or someone could be manipulating you. So in this image we have a street or stage magician, and obviously street and stage magicians are performing tricks which involve sleight of hand. Obviously there's the old term of smoke and mirrors, and basically it's a performance whereby the audience are being deceived in what they're actually seeing. So I think this is a really fun depiction of this concept, that you may be deceiving somebody, or someone is deceiving you, or kind of using your willpower over somebody else. Now obviously there are negative connotations of this card. Nobody really wants to be deceived, but in terms of a visual representation, I think this is quite a clear and simple way of remembering the reversed meaning of the magician. To sum up then, the Magician card. It is a primal energy, a restless energy that, as the magician, we would like to channel. And when we do this, we become a conduit between heaven and earth to embrace the concept of as above, and so below to help us find our soul purpose. And when we transcend and discover our spiritual awareness, this gives us the freedom to reflect and identify our true desires. And in doing so, we are more able to identify the skills, the resources that we have at our disposal to help manifest our dreams. However, when manifesting, it's important to note that we need to do so with creative action and intention, where we mindfully and purposefully direct our channeled energy to our goals and to direct them to be successful with the outcomes of the things that we want to achieve. And when in reverse, this energy becomes one of possibly deceit or using our manifesting skills and our desires but to manipulate others, or perhaps some people are using their skills to manipulate us. And so how have I interpreted the Magician card for the deck that I'm creating? Well, let me introduce you to Reginald the Ringmaster, aka the in-house magician. And you don't get to become the lead ringmaster of a very popular circus unless you have worked your magic and been able to climb up through the circus ranks and to manifest your dreams. Like all magician cards, our magician has his tools to his disposal, including his woolen ball magic wand. He is demonstrating to us how he has used his intention and will to manifest magical bunnies as part of his magic show. He is also embracing the concept of as above, so below, because we have the heavens behind him. But also you'll notice on the circus, the big top circus floor, we have the cosmos below him. And later on in the deck, you will discover that this is also a magical floor to the big top. Now it's worth mentioning at this point, Reginald, like the rest of the circus, is a cat, and if you've ever lived with a cat or been a cat parent, you will know that cats are magnificent manifestors. And so this is meant to be a very playful deck as well, and it does embrace cat energy and playfulness of cats and circus energy. And you know, I was thinking about this, cats have a way of getting what they want. What is it? You're trying to manifest your intentions. So if you're struggling with the idea of manifesting, just think cat. What do they do to get you to pretty much give into their will? You know, they tell you when they're hungry. They will be staring at your bowl. They will be communicating with you. And whilst that's what cats need to do to manifest food, cuddles, warmth, whatever it is, you are invited with Reginald to think about what it is, the actions that you will need to take to manifest your dreams as well. I do really appreciate you joining me to explore the Magician card with me today, and if you found that useful and fancy giving it a cheeky like, I would very much appreciate it. And of course you can also subscribe for more content like this. This video is part of a series / course that I am creating where I am exploring some of my favourite depictions of each card and explain how they have helped me to understand the cards on a deeper level, because as a visual learner, pictures speak louder than words for me, and I have learnt a lot of my tarot knowledge by studying the pictures first and then using that to help me understand the text that I read later on. And if that sounds like you, do be sure to join me for future videos. I'm Sally, this is my channel, Vaudeville Manor, House of Art and Tarot. Until the next time, here are some more videos in this series that you can watch, and sending you much love wherever you are today. Bye bye.